This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, August 26th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia is back in ICE custody.
Mi nombre es Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
I'm Julie Walker.
Top official fired by President Trump. Jennifer King reports pushback grows over plans to put the National Guard on the streets of Baltimore and Chicago, and a drug kingpin will likely spend the rest of his life in an American prison. We'll have those stories.
More patriotic orders by the president.
They kill people and they get out. Cashless bail.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a losing day, but Nvidia shares were higher yesterday ahead of earnings coming tomorrow. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
American soccer star faces racist chants and concerns over anti-Semitism from U.S. ambassador to France. All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump fires Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, escalating his pressure campaign after months of urging the central bank to lower interest rates. The move by the president comes as the Department of Justice is probing into allegations of whether Cook lied on mortgage applications. In a posting on Truth Social, Trump said, quote, "I have determined that there is sufficient cause to remove you from your position and do not have such confidence in your integrity," end quote. Cook's termination comes after months of complaints by Trump about the Federal Reserve and its chairman, Jerome Powell, for not cutting interest rates as the president has demanded they do. Shifting gears, Kilmar Abrego Garcia was taken into custody following an immigration check in Baltimore and brought into a detention center in Virginia. But any plans for the government to deport the alleged gang member to the African nation of Uganda is on hold for now after a judge paused the deportation plan. Correspondent Julie Walker is following the story.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who became the face of President Trump's immigration policies, is back in ICE custody after turning himself in Monday surrounded by supporters.
Mi nombre es Kilmar Abrego Garcia y siempre quiero que recuerden que hoy puedo decir con orgullo que estoy libre y me reuní con mi familia.
Brothers and sisters, my name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And I want you to remember this. Remember that I am free, and I was able to be reunited with my family.
Speaking through a translator, his voice breaking, Garcia says his family will get him through this.
Siempre recordé momentos hermosos con mi familia, momentos de ir al parque, de ir al trampolín con mis hijos.
When I was detained, I remembered memories with my family, going to the park with them, going to the trampoline with my children.
Esos momentos me darán fuerzas y esperanza para seguir luchando.
Those moments will continue to give me hope to continue in this fight.
And told supporters through a translator,
this administration has hit us hard, but I want to tell you guys something. God is with us.
Garcia faces human smuggling charges his lawyers call preposterous.
There was no need for them to take him into ICE detention. He was already on electronic monitoring from the U.S. Marshal Service and basically on house arrest. The only reason that they've chosen to take him into detention is to punish him. It really is very clear that the government is far more interested in throwing around their weight and demonstrating what they think is their power to do whatever they want, whenever they want, to whoever they want. That's clearly far more important to them than any particular outcome in this case.
He also faces possible deportation to Uganda, even though he's not from there. It's one of the countries the Trump administration contracts with to send migrants. I'm Julie Walker.
Saying Chicago is a killing field. The leaders of Democrat-run cities in Maryland and Illinois are reacting with alarm as President Trump looks to deploy more National Guard units. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
In Washington, D.C., as public schools reopen, over 2,000 National Guard members and other federal officers are patrolling the city, some now carrying firearms after a directive from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
I don't believe that troops should be policing American cities.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says parents are anxious, and she's worried that some might keep their children out of school over immigration concerns.
Any attempt to target children is heartless.
President Trump expanded on the crime emergency, signing an executive order Monday directing the Department of Justice and the Secretary of Defense to equip and train specialized units to ensure public safety in the nation's capital. Meanwhile, other Democratic-led cities are concerned about possible deployments. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says his city will file a lawsuit if the president expands deployments there.
Chicagoans are not calling for a military occupation. They are calling for the same thing that we've been calling for some time, and that's investment.
Illinois' Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker bristled at the idea.
Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points.
The administration says more than 1,000 people have been arrested in D.C. since the federal intervention began. Trump suggested he might dispatch the National Guard to Chicago, regardless of Pritzker's opinion.
You know, when I have some slob like Pritzker criticizing us before we even go there, I made the statement that next should be Chicago, because as you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it.
Jennifer King, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. It's the biggest sale of the year. All beds are on sale. Limited time, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. Long-standing laws to be done away with by executive order after these messages. America in the Morning continues with the nation's outlook. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
More rain and thunderstorms will shift out of the Rockies into the plains today as it interacts with a frontal system holding nearly stationary in the region. Some of the rain could be heavier, leading to localized flooding, especially this morning around Oklahoma in the Panhandle into southern Oklahoma and then continuing into western Arkansas. Once again, the clouds and rain will lead to a cooler day with highs in the 60s and 70s. It's also going to remain hot to the south of that front through southern New Mexico into much of Texas with highs in the 90s and 100s. Farther west, monsoon moisture will yield another round of showers and thunderstorms through the Four Corners area from New Mexico and Arizona northward to Nevada, Utah, and Colorado, but also including portions of Oregon, Idaho, and Wyoming. Some of these storms will lead to flash flooding. Also, a few of the storms can produce gusty winds and, like yesterday in Phoenix, cause a dust storm. A few storms will also stretch into parts of California, especially over the higher elevations. Meanwhile, in areas where rain is limited in the west, it will be hot again through the California valleys into the interior northwest, with highs in the 90s and 100s. Meanwhile, farther east, it will once again be a comfortable day through the northern plains into the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Northeast, and Middle Atlantic. Most areas will have plenty of sunshine today with highs in the 60s and 70s, but a few areas near the Great Lakes will have more clouds, along with a few showers and a thunderstorm, some of which could turn gusty. Few of these thunderstorms will also continue inland into northern Ohio, western and northern Pennsylvania, and upstate New York. That's the weather across America. Brownsville, Texas will be quite warm and humid with an afternoon thunderstorm in spots and a high of 93. It'll be a cooler day in Erie, Pennsylvania with some sun and a couple of gusty thunder showers and a high of 67. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump is rolling out executive orders that eliminate two long-standing laws in America. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President Trump is doing away with cashless bail.
Somebody kills somebody, they go in, don't worry about it, no cash, come back in a couple of months, we'll give you a trial. You never see the person again. And, I mean, they kill people and they get out. Cashless bail.
The president wants to expand the concept eventually, but is starting in the nation's capital.
And that we have the right to do through federalization.
The order comes as the president touts his federal takeover of D.C. He said there have been 0 murders there since his takeover took hold. D.C.'s had cashless bail since 1992, and advocates believe it's more fair than a cash bail system, which they say lets wealthier alleged criminals stay out of jail before trial. The president also put pen to paper on a separate executive order that directs the Justice Department to investigate instances of flag burning.
If you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing.
Back in 1989, the Supreme Court ruled that the First Amendment protected symbolic speech to include burning flags. The order will likely face legal challenges. I'm Clayton Neville.
Former Mexican cartel kingpin El Mayo Zambada pleaded guilty Monday to U.S. drug trafficking charges, saying he was sorry for helping to flood the U.S. with cocaine and other illicit substances. He was the founder of the Sinaloa cartel, for years the biggest and most powerful criminal organization in Mexico. In late July 2024, Zambada was allegedly lured to a meeting where U.S. law enforcement officials were waiting near El Paso. The 77-year-old is expected to spend the rest of his life behind bars. U.S. government gets stake in computer chip manufacturer. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. It's time for Tuesday Business. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opening this morning after a losing day for stocks yesterday, but NVIDIA shares were up 1% ahead of earnings out tomorrow after the closing bell. That high-end AI chip maker is highly watched by investors. Home builders sold more newly built homes than expected in July, and they were cheaper, too, overall than the same month last year.
This is based on signed contracts during the month of July, so people out shopping, inking their deals. And that's when mortgage rates were still on the higher level, above 6.75% on the 30-year fix. They have since come down, but that didn't happen until the first week of August, so that's not represented in these numbers. Now, the median price of a new home sold was $403,800. That is down 5.9% year over year. So you see the builders lowering prices. Of course, we know the builders, the big publics, have been buying down mortgage rates.
CNBC's Diana Olick. President Trump yesterday celebrating the government's unprecedented new 10% stake in struggling chipmaker Intel, saying he'll make deals like that for the U.S. all day long. If the government takes more stakes in other companies, a sovereign wealth fund could be created. And there's a take on this from Cambridge economist Mohammed El-Arian on CNBC.
The only thing I like about this Intel transaction is a message to the private sector: there is no free lunch. If you're going to take money from the government, don't think it comes free. However, I worry about two things. I worry about the spreading, and I worry about the lack of respect in this critical difference between ownership and control. Ownership is fine. Starting to impact business decision is really problematic. And I just would be very nervous if suddenly we go into a world in which the government starts impacting lots of business decisions.
Netflix expanding past the streaming screen with new Netflix houses. They're not quite theme parks.
Netflix announcing it's opening Netflix houses in Philly and Dallas this year, and then in Las Vegas in 2027. These experiential entertainment locations are designed to reinforce fandom, to minimize churn, and yes, generate some incremental revenue. They offer a combination of free and paid experiences, including VR games, mini golf, screenings, and Netflix Bites themed restaurants. Now, these are the first permanent Netflix houses. For years, Netflix has hosted different experiential pop-ups, a Bridgerton pop-up, and events around Stranger Things, Squid Game, and others.
CNBC's Julia Borston. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Box and PVH. We get the latest on home prices in the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index. Starbucks has pumpkin spice lattes back in stores this morning.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, not doing enough to thwart anti-Semitism. That claim by a U.S. ambassador, back after these messages. There's concern overseas for American athletes after a star United States soccer player was subjected to racist taunts while playing in Italy for one of the nation's top teams. Correspondent Gethin Coolball reports.
Juventus says U.S. midfielder Weston McKennie has been subjected to racist abuse following the team's 2-0 season-opening win over Parma in Serie A play on Sunday. The Turin-based club posted a statement on social media saying McKennie faced discriminatory remarks from individuals in the away section while warming down with teammates on the pitch. Juventus pledged full cooperation with authorities to identify those responsible. Parma has also condemned the incident in a statement released Monday. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
France has summoned U.S. Ambassador Kushner over what it says is an unacceptable letter about rising anti-Semitism. Lisa Dwyer reports.
France's foreign ministry officials have met with a representative of U.S. Ambassador Charles Kushner after Ambassador Kushner sent a letter to the French president urging him to act decisively, enforce hate crime laws without exception, ensure the safety of Jewish schools, synagogues, and businesses, and abandon steps that give legitimacy to Hamas and its allies. The U.S. State Department has defended Kushner's comments. France firmly rejects Kushner's allegations that they are not doing enough, and criticism over France's stand on Palestine, insisting that France is fully mobilizing against anti-Semitism. France is home to the largest Jewish population in Europe, with the third largest Jewish population in the world after Israel and the United States. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, August 26th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
President Trump ramps up threats to send National Guard troops into other cities. I'm John Stolness in Washington.
Wildfires threaten homes in Oregon and California wine country, also cause a death in Montana. I'm Julie Walker.
Israel launching an internal investigation after a deadly airstrike kills at least 5 journalists. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Trump's initial warning to South Korea's president turned into a warm welcome before his meeting with President Lee Jae-myung. Ed Donahue, Washington.
President Trump is threatening to reopen the Bridgegate scandal against Chris Christie. I'm Sue Aller.
Musk accuses OpenAI and Apple of bullying Grok. I'm Chuck Palm.
Back after these messages. America in the Morning continues with the national forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Monsoon moisture over the interior parts of the West will produce another round of showers and thunderstorms from Arizona and New Mexico northward through Nevada, Utah, and Colorado, but also including portions of Oregon, Idaho, and Wyoming. Some of these storms will be heavy enough to cause flash flooding. A few of the storms could also produce gusty winds and, like yesterday in Phoenix, caused a dust storm. Few of the storms will also stretch westward into parts of California, especially over the higher elevations. But in areas where rain is limited, it's going to be hot again from the California valleys into the interior northwest with highs in the 90s and 100s. More rain and thunderstorms will shift out of the Rockies into the plains as it interacts with a frontal system holding stationary over the region. Some of the rain could be heavier, leading to localized flooding, especially in the morning hours around the Oklahoma Panhandle into southern Oklahoma and continuing into western Arkansas. Once again, the clouds and rain will lead to a cooler day with highs in the 60s and 70s. It's also going to remain hot to the south of that boundary through southern New Mexico into much of Texas, with highs holding in the 90s and even a few 100s. And then meanwhile, farther east, we're looking at another comfortable day through the northern plains into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, Northeast and Middle Atlantic. Most of these areas will have plenty of sunshine with highs in the 60s and 70s, but a few areas near the Great Lakes will have more clouds along with a few showers and a thunderstorm, some of which could turn gusty. Few thunderstorms will also build eastward into parts of northern Ohio, western and northern Pennsylvania, and then continuing through upstate New York. Some stronger wind gusts will also be possible with these storms, along with some small hail. Dry and comfortable weather will also extend into the southeast, where sunshine mixes with clouds, highs in the 70s and 80s. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump again lays out potential plans for the federal government to exercise some measure of control over the security for cities like Chicago, Baltimore, and New York in a similar way to what is taking place in the nation's capital. John Stolness has more from Washington.
Mr. President, do not come to Chicago.
Democratic Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, forcefully telling the president his state has not asked for and does not want National Guard troops to be mobilized to try and do police work that he and other Democrats say is an unconstitutional power grab and a violation of states' rights.
Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points.
Calling the president an arrogant little man, Governor Pritzker says there is no insurrection taking place in Chicago that warrants the mobilization of the National Guard.
To any federal official who would come to Chicago and try to incite my people into violence as a pretext for something darker and more dangerous, we are watching. And we are taking names.
In the Oval Office Monday, the president appeared undeterred, touting a decrease in violent crime in the nation's capital since the federal government took over the D.C. police force 2 weeks ago. He says Chicago is next on his list.
You really want to be asked to go. You know, I hate to barge in on a city and then be treated horribly by corrupt politicians and bad politicians like a guy like Pritzker. He ought to spend more time in the gym, actually.
Trump called Chicago a killing field and pushed back at claims that he's acting like a wannabe dictator.
And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
The president signed an executive order on Monday that would revoke federal money from local and state governments that allow cashless bail. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says that won't help keep criminals off the streets.
Cashless bail is not a new phenomenon in the district. I think it's been in place since the mid-90s.
Bowser lamented crackdowns against nonviolent immigrants who may be in the country illegally, saying the targeting of children is heartless. She notes some parents are not sending their children to school out of fear of being deported. John Stolness, Washington.
The combination of hot weather and dry conditions has led to several wildfires burning in the West. One of those is now deadly. Details from correspondent Julie Walker.
Wildfires threaten homes in Oregon and California wine country, also cause a death in Montana. Curtis Rhodes with CAL FIRE says the Picket Fire in Napa Valley is threatening homes and vineyards.
It is a huge concern of ours. As we know, it is a driving force here in the community as far as income and revenue. So we have strategically placed and logistically staffed up.
In Oregon, the Flat Fire had about 4,000 homes under various levels of evacuation. Eric Perkins with Oregon Department of Forestry says they've been battling new growth.
We did have some new growth yesterday, but caught it relatively early. We had a couple spots where on the north end of the fire and on the west end of the fire where we did have new fire growth, but we were able to get dozers and hand crews around it and using the aircraft and kept it relatively small, have it all hemmed in today. Feel pretty good about it. We are starting to get the upper hand on this.
In Montana,
both of these fires are up in the Tobacco Root Mountains in Montana. And I have heard the terrain described as some of the toughest firefighting terrain that people have seen. Many of the areas are very rocky, they're very rugged, they're difficult to access. And so that is certainly a consideration when we're fighting the fire.
A firefighter died Sunday after suffering a cardiac emergency while battling the Bivens Creek fire. Spokesperson Amy Highfield.
Everyone feels the loss of a firefighter keenly. I will say that the mood in camp is a little bit more somber. That being said, all of the firefighters know that there is still a fire that needs to be fought.
She says the terrain is extremely tough, but firefighters are pushing through. I'm Julie Walker.
President Trump reacts to one of the deadliest Israeli strikes since the Israel-Hamas war began nearly 2 years ago, following Hamas' October 7th attack on Israel. Correspondent Clayton Neville provides an update.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said since the war started that it will not be over until Hamas is eliminated entirely. He hasn't backed away from that stance. This week, though, the Prime Minister reacting to an Israeli airstrike on Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis by calling it a tragic mishap. More than 20 people killed, many others injured. President Trump was asked about the strikes.
I'm not happy about it. I don't want to see it. At the same time, we have to end that whole nightmare. I'm the one that got the hostages out. I got them out, all of them. Steve Witkoff has been amazing. He's done a great job. But I'm the one that got them all out through my people and through me. And now we're left with probably a little bit less than 20 because I think 1 or 2 are gone.
He said he knew getting Hamas to return hostages wouldn't be easy.
I said a long time ago, I'm going to get them out, but when we get down to that final 10 or 20, these people aren't going to release them because they're dead after they release them. So it's a nasty situation, very nasty, horrible thing. 5
journalists among the dead. Video journalists for the Associated Press and Reuters included. The others killed worked for Al Jazeera and Middle East Eye. The UN, France, and others now condemning the attack. It's being reported that Israeli troops fired 2 artillery shells at the hospital, targeting what they thought was a Hamas surveillance camera on the roof. A spokesperson for the Israeli military said the army does not target civilians and suggested Hamas fighters were hiding among civilians, as they've done since the war started. Israel, though, has launched an internal investigation into the strikes. I'm Clayton Neville.
Elon Musk sues Apple. When America in the Morning returns after these messages. President Trump had an abrupt change of tone for his meeting with the president of South Korea. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports that despite what was a positive meeting, including talks of peace on the Korean peninsula, Trump's stance on tariffs placed on South Korea will not change.
So resolving this issue through my engagement is not an easy thing. And the only person that can make progress on this issue is you, Mr. President.
대통령께서 피스메이커를 하시면 저는 페이스메이커로 열심히 지원하겠습니다.
So if you become the peacemaker, then I will assist you by being a pacemaker.
That's good. We can do big progress, I think, with North Korea. Absolutely.
President Trump's initial warning to South Korea's president turned into a warm welcome. Before his meeting with President Lee Jae-myung, the president threatened on social media not to do business with Seoul because of a purge or revolution that he claimed was taking place.
I heard that there were raids on churches over the last few days, very vicious raids on churches by the new government in South Korea. That they even went into our military base and got information.
The prospects of hostilities went away when Lee started speaking.
And I heard that you recently redecorated the Oval Office, and I would like to say that it looks very bright and beautiful, and it has the dignity of America.
And Lee called on the president to help with a peace deal with North Korea.
And I think you are much more prone to doing that than other leaders that I've been working with from South Korea.
World leaders have mostly gone the way of praise and adulation rather than confrontation with the president. Ed Donahue, Washington.
After appearing on a Sunday talk show criticizing Donald Trump, the president floated the idea of having former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie investigated over the 2013 Bridgegate scandal. Sue Aller has more on the story.
He always thought he got away with murder. That's what President Trump said about former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie over the decade-old Bridgegate scandal.
But what he did is he took the George Washington Bridge, which is very serious. He closed down the George Washington Bridge. And you had medical people, you had ambulances caught up. This thing was closed down. Obviously, he knew about it. He blamed other people.
Trump hinted he might reopen an investigation into the lane closures on the George Washington Bridge, the political scandal where Christie's aides orchestrated traffic jams to punish a local mayor. Trump's comments came after Christie criticized him this Sunday on ABC's This Week.
He told you he was going to do this, that he was going to have a Justice Department that acted as his personal legal representation. And that is what they're doing.
Christie said Trump absolutely rejects the idea that there should be separation between criminal investigations and the politically elected leader, warning Trump's clear intention is retribution against political enemies. Christie was never charged, but 2 of his aides were convicted. The Supreme Court later overturned those convictions. I'm Sue Aller.
Hurricane Aaron did not make landfall in the U.S., but it was a deadly storm. Authorities in New Hampshire report a 17-year-old boy was swimming Sunday when he was pulled out by strong rip currents off a Hampton beach and drowned. A man from South Carolina also caught up in deadly rip currents while swimming off the New York coast. 2 swimmers in New Jersey drowned in the past 10 days at beaches where rip currents were known to exist. And a boater died on Sunday afternoon when his 27-foot craft was hit by a large wave, throwing him and another man into the rough waters. At its closest, the center of Aaron was about 200 miles off the North Carolina Outer Banks. Elon Musk is suing Apple and OpenAI for billions, claiming collusion to prevent Musk's AI platform from fairly competing on the Apple App Store. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
Elon's XAI has slapped Apple and OpenAI with a lawsuit in a Texas federal court, accusing them of teaming up to squash AI competition and rig the App Store rankings. XAI is accusing the competition of locking up markets to keep their rivals, like their XAI's Grok, from gaining any ground. Apple's deal to bake in ChatGPT into the iPhones, iPads, and Macs gives OpenAI a big leg up, while XAI, despite a 4.9-star rating from millions of reviews, gets sidelined in the App Store, at least according to details on the lawsuit. OpenAI fired back, calling it Musk's typical pattern of harassment, while Apple stayed uncharacteristically quiet. Musk is seeking billions in damages, saying that Apple's favoritism makes it impossible for other AI apps to hit #1 in the App Store. For more tech news, find me at chuckpalm.com.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has Tuesday sports.
Baseball Monday, Cal Raleigh hit his 50th home run of the season, and the Mariners defeated the Padres 9-6. Raleigh is just the second switch hitter ever to hit the half-century mark in home runs, joining Mickey Mantle. Mets wiped out an early deficit, scoring 13 unanswered runs as they manhandled the Phillies 13-3. The Yankees doubled up the Nationals 10-5. Dodgers whitewashed the Reds 7-0. Emmett Sheehan with 10 strikeouts in 7 innings of a combined 3-hitter.
Just executing consistently, throwing everything with conviction instead of, just trying to place it. And that's stuff Mark and Connor have helped me a lot with, and the strength coaches have helped me a lot with too.
Shane Smith and Tyler Gilbert teamed up on a 2-hit gem as the White Sox blanked the Royals 7-0. Rays lowered the boom on the Guardians 9-0. Ian Seymour in the eyes with a 2-hitter. Junior Caminero connected twice. He's got 39 taters this year. Cleveland has dropped 6 straight. And the Angels shut out the Rangers 4-0. 5 Halo hurlers scattered 5 hits. Wins for the Brewers, Red Sox, Marlins, Blue Jays, A's, and Cardinals. NFL teams have until this afternoon to finalize their 53-man rosters. The Raiders have their new backup quarterback. Kenny Pickett comes over from the Browns for a draft pick. A first-round upset at the U.S. Open. American Madison Keys taken out in 3 sets. The 6th seed and Australian Open champ committed 89 unforced errors, including 14 double faults. Venus Williams also fell in 3 sets, but then it was the first Grand Slam match for the 45-year-old in 2 years. That's Tuesday Sports.
Swatting. Police respond to college campuses after these messages. In the span of a week, students at Philadelphia's Villanova University and also at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga were locked down over reports of an active shooter, both of which were found to be a hoax. Swatting. Correspondent Mike Kempen reports it happened again, this time in South Carolina, where an investigation has started following another unconfirmed shooting report on an American college campus.
University of South Carolina officials say there is no evidence of a shooter after an unconfirmed report. USC officials say there have been no reports of any shots being fired. They had issued an alert about a possible shooting near the library days after false reports at 2 other universities led to panic and temporary lockdowns. In Pennsylvania on Thursday, someone called 911 reporting a shooter in a Villanova University Law School building with at least 1 wounded victim. But the school president later said it was a hoax. That same day, The University of Tennessee Chattanooga locked down its campus, telling students of a possible shooter in the university center or the library. Multiple law enforcement agencies responded, but school officials later said there was no evidence of any threat. I'm Mike Hempen.
DC Comics will not be wasting any money and time changing things in previous installments of their comic book movies. Kevin Carr has details.
Last week, the first episode of Peacemaker Season 2 debuted on HBO Max. However, in the recap of Season 1, there was a noticeable change. The Season 1 finale featured a Justice League cameo with Jason Momoa as Aquaman and Ezra Miller as The Flash. Now, the Justice Gang from the movie Superman shows up with Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl and Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern.
So I was thinking, like, maybe you could call in the Justice Gang. What a meathead.
Screw that guy. TV Insider asked writer-director James Gunn if they were going to digitally change the Season 1 finale to match.
No, I mean, unfortunately, I would have to change too many little things throughout Season 1, and it would cost too much money, and I'd rather just give that money to a few more CGI shots of Supergirl.
Playing off ideas from this summer's hit film Superman, the new season dips its toe into the multiverse model similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It isn't so much about a multiverse story. It's more about an alternate world story. It's a much more contemplative situation than you would see like in a multiverse story like Deadpool and Wolverine.
If you're curious about what's continuous in the DC universe, Gunn explained.
Canon is really Creature Commando, Superman, Peacemaker Season 2.
This seems to have worked, at least for the critics. Forbes crunched the numbers over the weekend and discovered that Peacemaker Season 2 has the highest Rotten Tomatoes score for any live-action DC adaptation at 99%. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, August 26th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.